Good afternoon. This is Chris Cardia. I'm a bit under the weather lately. I caught a little bit of a flu. Flu, sinus thing, strep throat, I don't know exactly. But, anywho, it keeps me out there from shooting you guys. Oh yes, it's a pretty old chassis. This is the one for the R-Spec Retaliator. And, shooting pretty good. I got a new set of J-codes the other day because I had to ship out a Holy Triad. And you know what was sad about that? Is I wanted to just go there and drive to the guy's house and say, "Here you go!" And I wanted to do a big promo video. But I'm selling it, and I made a whole $3.54 on it. I'm selling it with two other people that are actually making less than that per unit. And it was in Sun Valley, California. I used to live in North Hollywood off of Victory and Vineland, and he's just up Victory past the airport. And I was like, dude, I just want to drop this off and say, here it is, the personal approach, but no, you gotta go by eBay's policy. Okay, fine. You know, it was pretty hard for me in all these eBay policies, okay? For one, like, for example, I put down, hey, look, I have a 2 or 3 week lead time because I have to get parts from, like, Singapore and China and everywhere else. So right when one said, oh man, we got to get it in the mail today, and I'm like, dude, I'm in Redondo Beach. My guns are at home. I'm not even, like, in the same place to get it. So, truth finally prevailed, and I realized, wait a minute, I got the springs to mod it in my car. I've got the Teflon tape. I'll just go. Yeah, I'll just go get a gun from Walmart and mod it and then send it out. So that's what I did. And this internet commerce, I tell you, it's a lot of work if you're not used to it. I'm used to just being the guy going out there and modding and doing my guns, and it's a lot of work to do this stuff. So anyway, so then we got me trying to do something, making a living, and then we got me doing favors for friends. One of those things was buying the Xplorer plunger and piston kit for a friend and having him pay me back. Well, his plunger tube broke on him when it went, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I've never seen a gun do that. So Xplorer's been actually pretty good about this. Is either going to refund us some money or give us a replacement one with the spring for shipping. Even though shipping is godly high expensive because it's Singapore, I still think, what else better can you do? And they brought up a lot of issues, like, for example, dual springs. And I wanted to bring this up to my audience, dual springs. Everybody knows that the R-Spec is dual spring. And it has to have one of these Xplorer pistons to do it. What do I think of it? I think I had to do a lot of work to get it right because it needed the right amount of Teflon tape. It needed the seams needed to be filed, but it's not like you go, you can't look at a Hasbro part and there is seams. I mean, obviously you got a seam between the two ends. You got mold seams in your parts. They're there, but I had to sand them out. You know what I mean? I had to put a little piece of felt in there too. But all in all, if you are the serious modder and you don't want to deal with an ABS piston, it's the best, man. It's the best. I have not had a single problem with this piston. Let me tell you how badass this piston is. Okay? This has got... now, before I show you this, a few disclaimers. Number one, this gun has an aluminum bolt sled. It is not your same old cheesy plastic ABS one. It's not made out of nylon. It is aluminum. Okay? It means if I were to do what I'm going to do, the amount of force that's going to twist this now is not going to break the bolt sled. I have broken 2 bolt sleds on Retaliators doing exactly what I'm about to do, which I think is stupid, but I want to show you that the end result of this part, which I believe is a righteous application for this material. I don't know if it's a nylon, a thermoset, a composite, but for an internal part, I think this is a good application. That's a reflex spring. That's a Raider stock. A Raider stock that is locked up so it can't go. Because I got sick and tired of this thing locking up back and forth. Look at that. I got no problems with that. I just cocked it back. No problem. No problem whatsoever. The plunger is such a good plunger that it really holds up really well with this material. just had two problems. One was internal diameter, and the second was I wanted it to be a little bit more cleaned up. Um, and I have to tell you also, the cleanup part is personal preference, like that. See? But let me compare this to some Orange ModWorks parts now to be fair. Let's be fair to Xplorer. Because Xplorer answered my prayers, dude. I don't have an ABS piston anymore I gotta worry about. And every time I take it down, there is goose egg wear on this. There's more wear on the actual trigger catch, which I'm sure after 10,000 rounds that's going to cause some problems. But it's not like I don't have 3 or 4 of them lying around, because I actually do. But let me tell you a little bit more about Orange ModWorks. Okay, the 1+2 Recon kit. In all fairness, with all the drama with the plunger and everything else, we never got to the Recon kit, and the reason is because A, it wasn't like a modern part, but it wasn't like a modern gun. Obviously, retaliators have obsoleted the Recons. Okay, so when I got the kit, my first problem was the let me just open this up and show you the compatible part. Was this lip right here on an aluminum one? See, this lip that feeds the dart. I'll reverse land here. Yeah, what it was doing is it was too far in. So what it was doing on the magazine, instead of going past it and then loading the dart in as it's going, it was actually going like that to it. I had to file that down. I had to use a rat tail file and file that down to get that perfect, okay? Also, the back piston, okay? I didn't like how shabby it looked, so I took some 220 and I sanded it like so. And it ended up having that brushed metal look. If anybody's ever seen my Recons, next time I'm in the trunk of my car, I'll go grab one for you. And you know what? It was actually pretty good. The reason I'm not showing it right now is I tried to use an 8K power spring on it, and I actually broke the 2 fingers on here. There's another good application for maybe an Xplorer type plastic like this, is the fact that it is really tough plastic. So places that ABS plastic would break, or phenolic resin would break, or nylon would break, theirs won't, because they are strong. At least I think where the substance of the wall thickness is thick enough. Now another thing about their plunger tubes. Okay, is their plunger tube good, in my opinion, for people that are hot rodders like me and Kyle, who want to take a gun that nobody would ever throw 11 or 12 or 10K on, and with dual springs? No. Do I think it's good for people that have long shots with that stupid reverse piston system and they want to make direct piston? A very good alternative. It just depends on what application that you use it for. Do I think that their sleeve is better than the retaliator spring with the retaliator tube without fixing it? No. I think you can just file that down, bring the clearance, and then you can use their piston. I think their piston is definitely better than a Nerf one or what anyone else has. And as for Remedy Metals, dude, they don't sell long shots anymore. Okay, keep them, yeah, and I also like the fact that they have stock long shot parts and this and that, but I have never used a long shot in modding. Call me dumb, but I just, okay, by the time I was working on a Recon, and by the time I got a Recon with that experimental nozzle I was working on, I got 75 feet arch. I got elite ranges rather than 35 feet arch. I immediately put a power power spring behind that, and I got that very quickly up to about 75 flat. And this was back in 2008, and at that point, I was sort of like happy with what I had. I had a long shot. That was my nephew's long shot. They ended up giving it to me. I never really saw a real use for it. There are also idiosyncrasies I didn't like about the long shot. One was the bolt system. Another was you can only fire it a certain amount of times a second. Didn't like that. And I just didn't like the feeding system and everything else. However, the long shot has the biggest piston area and has the potential for using the biggest springs. So the gun's got major potential, and I'm sure that long shot that's sitting in my room, which I believe is either a pre-release or either right when it came out in 2004, is a great gun. It has very little wear on it, but honestly, be honest with you, I was very happy with the recon I was making, which was, of course, the 177 carbine, which had about 5 revisions. The last one was strong enough to shoot at 175 arched and about 120 flat. It was very powerful. The problem was it was also so powerful it was blowing out the darts. It was blowing out the material of the darts. So I decided I had to fix the bolt in order to get it, but I never did because the bolt on that gun is one of a kind, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll just take the booster stock out of it and maybe make it 4K instead of 6 and make it usable a little bit more like this, but I don't know. So when you look at Orange Model Works parts, do they need some fussing sometimes? I think every part needs fussing. Hell, I think a standard Nerf gun needs fussing. So when I sat there and I said, okay, well, an Xplorer part needs fussing around, I forgot to mention that I think just about everyone does. And if you are a really good modder, or in my case, a little bit more people tend to call me more a tuner, but more tuners than even modders are. Another one's somebody who wants better finishing touches, like a gunsmith. Because back in the late 90s, that's where I got my start. I remember the one guy that I was at shooting range one day, and he had a 1943 Colt single action 1911A, and he wanted to use it for a show. The problem is it's got a grip safety on the back of it. Well, the grip safety's got a little pin that engages and says when the gun is being held in hand. The problem is that broke on him. So what we had to do is I had to take the gun apart, and I was frightened. It's one of a kind. This guy was from World War II. He's old, and this was his sidearm. This was his sidearm. This was his piece that he had always in his army holster. Okay, I mean he invaded Normandy with this gun. Okay, and this was on his side in Normandy. Okay, and he and I'd taken this thing apart. I take apart the little pin that holds the bottom out. I was so frightened. And I'm like, and I realized all I got to do is pin the safety, and then we can just get a new part, make a new part, and find another part. The problem we found ordering a part was that the part's tone of its bluing was not going to be as good, and he didn't want to reblue the gun because obviously it's original. And he finally found somebody who had a GI-45 that blew the barrel out on it, and the tone of it was there. I'm talking several months later. He was very fussy about his gun. And because they don't serialize your grip safeties, it wasn't a problem. But man, I was like, he was just so happy with me. And anytime I saw him, hey man, you need to borrow a box of ammo, you need to borrow a cleaning kit, you need to borrow, my 308 rifle, let me know. I mean, just such a nice old cogger guy. I mean, seriously. And that's where I got my start. And a lot of other people took their Smiths and their Springfields and other guns that were a little bit more match grade. They also liked a lot more of my advice. I'm against really double action autos. Let's say like your Glocks or your SIGs. SIGs, I've seen lots of problems. Like, for example, your feed ramps. They bypass the last stage of the CNC, and you end up getting this sort of wavy on front. Well, if you put Fibonacci, 125 grainers in there, jam. Not only is Fibonacci just a bad round to use because it's dirty, and not only that, but it's high velocity. And there are some guns like your SIG 219 that will do just fine with it, or your Beretta 9mm will do fine. But there it is. So what does it have to relate to Nerf guns? Everything. It's gunsmithing. And that's mostly what I do, okay, with guns, is I tune them. I don't just get parts from Xplorer or Orange Model Works and throw them in. I actually file them down. I make them work good. I don't just use the set kits that Orange Model Works gets compared to Xplorer. Okay, what's my other thing with Orange Model Works? They do not make things extreme. Obviously, people like me, Kyle, or any well-respecting retaliator guy is going to say a 5-kilogram spring as my mainspring. That's great. But if I'm going to box with the Joneses, I'm going to want something at least 8, probably 10, and probably beyond that. If you go any higher than that, then you got to modify the bolt so that it doesn't hold the dart and it doesn't make it explode. But yeah, and they carry parts that make it so you can push it to the limit. As where I think that Orange Model Works more makes parts so you can take it to the next level. but not to the limit. Xplorer tends to make it to people, make it for a limit. And now, here's my other thing about Xplorer. If you're a person who takes things to a limit, and you gotta take sandpaper and a file to it anyway, what is another part to sand and file? Really. Think about how many parts does a retaliator have. Think about it. You got your bolt assembly, which has an air restrictor, a cone, and a spring. Okay. Then you have the O-ring for that. Then you have the bolt sled itself. Then you've got the nozzle on here, affixed to 2 bolts and then secured by these 2 bolts over here. Okay. And then you've got the assembly that takes a cam on your bolt sled and makes it so the thing goes up and down. Then you got a trap door on this thing. Okay. I'm reading all the parts here. Then you've got the springs that hold that whole assembly up and down, and the tighter the better on that actually. It makes it so the forward lockup's good, and you can do that in the middle of battle. So if you got a dud round or a bad round or something, you can just very easily take care of that. Okay. Or if you just want to do this, see, decocker. Okay. So then let's see, you got your shell, you got these pieces here. Okay, you got your slide pieces. Okay. Then they got screws that screw those in. You got all the shell screws that screw that in. Okay, then you've got your plunger tube, you've got your trigger catch, you've got your trigger catch spring. Your bolt sled may or may not have a mid-click. Mine doesn't, for the simple reason if you use powerful springs, that usually vibrates up and jams your gun. You've got your magazine catch indicator that puts upward force on the bolt sled. Mine's out. Then you've got the lockup that also pushes on that and acts as your magazine on and off, but it also acts as your trigger. Excuse me, it's just for the trigger. I have that, so that's in there, and I actually have a double strength catch spring on that because I want that lockup to this bolt sled to be nice, especially if I do not have the mid lock on there to keep it forward when you're firing. Let's see, you got your trigger. Okay, you've got your mainsprings, you've got your mainspring cap, you've got the screws for those. And then you've got the bottom one here, which is that, but that's not in there. Let me show you something real cool, too. Look at this, right? You got the bottom one. Remember how darts nowadays, they get stuck in there? Well, if you keep that off, it stays in there, right? When you're battling. And because you don't have this plastic part in here, it's actually easier to take it out. Unless it's some really mashed up J-coated or something. Then you got problems. So anywho, this is Chris Cartea. Oh, I forgot one more part. This catch here, which also has a screwed on part corresponding to this here. Those are all your parts in a retaliator. It's not that hard. The real trick is getting it all to work together. And to get it all working together nicely so that if you do run into a problem, you can quickly unjam the gun, rack the gun, fire the gun, everything. You know what I mean? So this is Chris Cartea, signing off. I talked about a lot of things today, but I want you to understand that every company has got its complaints, people do wrong things, and also that every company is going to make great products and they're going to make not great products. And that is often determined by our own usage, our own needs. You want to tell me that Fender Musical Instruments makes every product great? I don't think so. But my main guitar is a Fender Aircraft Blackie. But I have seen such shit come out of Mexico and Japan and the amplifiers that I'd rather use for firewood. Okay? But yet, I am a Fender guitar and amp guy. End of story. Take care. And give Xplorer SG and Orange Bondworks a look. And be creative. Be creative. Don't just stick to one company. Be creative. Actually, you can make something really good. We take care. Toodles.